What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Danny the Bull, back with another live stream as Bitcoin hovers just under $57,000 well ahead of schedule as far as where we thought we would be. If you asked, a year ago, I don't think many would have said that we would be approaching new all-time high for Bitcoin prior to the halving for the first time ever, right? Retesting the previous all-time high. But here we are around $57,000, looking strong, getting a little closer. A lot to talk about as always. We'll start off with some Bitcoin, talk about some of our favorite alts. Mcade has been on a tear. What's up with the other gaming coins, though? We'll talk about games for a living. We'll talk about playable games. We'll talk about Devve. And, Aitech is something that I've been talking about a lot on the channel. It's my favorite AI position that I have. Many of you have it. I did a deeper dive into their tokenomics. I want to talk about possible projections for the bull run. I added them to my spreadsheet along with Miria. If you saw my spreadsheet from last week where I lay out a number of tokens and talk about possibilities, because that's what this is all about, right? It's about possibilities. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And an interesting thing is that people who've married a narrative, who have married this idea that they know what's going to happen, oftentimes they get wrecked in both directions, right? There are people who were married to this idea that Bitcoin was going to have a catastrophic dump, or that, Bitcoin had to go back into the 20s, into the low 30s. They married this idea. What happens when you marry an idea is you oftentimes get blindsided. All right. So it's all about possibilities, probabilities, and thinking things out. That's what I'm all about. So welcome to the live stream. We'll talk about OMI as well, and the Bit4X, drama, and the thing that, something terrible that's happened to a lot of people who hold tokens on that exchange. But let's see who we got up in here. MVE in the house. Bit4X, sorry for all the people stuck in it. Absolutely. And we don't know exactly what happened there. There's been a ton of speculation. But all I can say is that every cycle, we will see the same stories play out. Every single cycle. There are people who click links and connect their wallets and lose tokens. There are people who keep their tokens on these small exchanges that end up going down, and we see it every cycle. So if you've been here, you should take what you've learned and apply it. And I get lazy myself sometimes. I had some money sitting on Mcade because, I buy things, I move money in there to buy things, and then I'm too lazy to move it out sometimes. And I had some money sitting over there, and I don't trust any small exchange. As soon as I saw what happened to Bit4X, I snapped out of it, took whatever funds I had on there, moved them out to my wallet, my private wallet. I also took the time to move things offline, more of my portfolio, because it's about protecting yourself. And if you've seen the past, you can predict the future. You know what's going to happen this cycle. Okay? So I feel sorry for anyone who has found any funds stuck on Bit4X. I know people who've lost I've heard stories, firsthand accounts, people who've lost a few $1,000s, not lost yet, but have a few $1,000s on there, to someone I know who has 6 figures on there. All right. So it's not a pleasant experience, and I feel bad for all those affected. We'll talk about some more of that. Russ going to sleep, but smash up the like. Russ is correct. Mcade to the moon. We'll talk about Mcade looking bullish, and why, I talked about why I'm more bullish on Mcade now than I was when I was accumulating, and I'll get into that some more. Russ also says, great SkyPath stream the other day. Thanks. And I streamed with those guys, the CEO, the the president, I forget the exact titles, but like the whole team, the SkyPath core team, very, very small market cap. I think it's $800,000 right now. But also I left that stream, feeling good about that team. So check that out if you haven't already. Foggy City in the house. What's good, Foggy? A little slow today, but she's third. My homie Ron's Cryptotherapy in the house. What's good, Ron? Ron's been Ron. Me and Ron have been side by side for a good 2 years now in Telegram, chatting daily. If you're not already a part of Ron's Telegram group, where I'm also a part of there, I'm an admin in there, definitely I recommend joining. It's a paid group, but it's a one-time fee for a full year of access. And a lot of Telegrams charge. I've seen some of these guys online charging like $75 a month, $100 a month and more. This is $250 for a year's worth of content through the end of the year. A lot of guys in there doing daily TA. And there have been a number of finds in there. I found most of the stuff that I'm in, I found there through Ron, through the people in there. And some of the stuff I didn't get in have gone up 5x, 6x, 10x in a short period of time. So good stuff going on there. Highly recommend it. Jordan Riz in the house. What's good, Jordan? Dino in the house. Present. Chris in the house. I love you too. Let's go. John in the house. Brian Sapita in the house. Let's go, Devve. Yeah. Devve's at a good price. And I love this setup for a token like Devve because it's a layer one, and layer ones can get to big market caps. Polkadot, $45 billion market cap last cycle. We've seen, Solana's a big one. ADA, its first cycle without any smart contracts. Near Protocol, then got to 5 billion last cycle. So 5 billion, is kind of conservative for a successful layer one. And sitting where Devve's at right now, which is, I believe, like 20-something million dollars. I'm going to take a look at it later, a deeper dive into it. The unlock is going to get diluted. That you have to take that into consideration. But to be positioned early for something like a layer one with a good narrative, it's a good time to be here. Yes, sir. Don't forget to hit the likes. Hate to get wrecked on both ends. And that's the key thing, right? You can get wrecked from being too conservative and get sidelined when you're waiting. There are many people who were saying not to buy alts until after the halving. Notable people with million-plus followers. Benjamin Cohen comes to mind. And a lot of people, I'm not going to get into all the names, said don't buy alts until after the halving. That's when all the gains come. And if you were sidelined, you would have missed out on so many good positions. The good news is that it's still early. All right. And there's still plenty of gains to be made, but I've made many gains already, as have a lot of you guys. So we're going to keep on making those gains. Tong in the house. Do you think Bitcoin reaches all-time high before halving? This has never happened before. It's correct. It's never happened before. It's unprecedented, which is why it goes back to what I said earlier. Don't marry a narrative. Don't marry one outcome. Be open to different possibilities. I don't think it'll surpass its all-time high, but I do think it's looking like there's a very good chance that it could test it. And here we are. We made through major resistance, and it's holding strong. at $57,000. And now you've got more and more people thinking along the lines of it's going to retest that previous all-time high of about 68,500, I believe, prior to the halving in April. Will it happen? Who knows? Do I think that there's a likelihood? Yes. And it's going to be fun. That's all I can say. If you checked out Fidelity, a couple things on Fidelity. One thing, today they issued you see all these hedge funds and big, banks and all this come out of the woodworks with price predictions as things heat up. Fidelity calling for $1.5 trillion Bitcoin, which would put it at about $100,000, I think. But what's interesting about Fidelity is I also saw, I think Will Clemente put this out, Fidelity's now recommending 1 to 3% crypto allocation in your portfolio, right? Which is huge if you think about it. This is a recommendation to all their clients. Think about what happens when down the line, think about if 1 to 3% of all portfolios are allocated to Bitcoin and crypto. Think about the prices that we get. And that's when you see like ARK Invest and Kathy Wood talking about that $1 million price tag, that's taking into consideration this sort of thing happening. Now, I don't think this happens, in the short term or soon, but look at how the perspective is changing. You now have the biggest money managers in the world shilling Bitcoin and soon Ethereum, and then maybe other alts. If you had told us that people who were in crypto a decade ago, I don't think they would have believed you. But here we are, and things change gradually until you've seen they've changed completely. I love that quote, right? Change doesn't happen all at once, but when it happens, it feels like it came out of nowhere. And we're watching this change unfold. So super exciting, but we're still very early. And I bookmarked another, this is a Miles tweet, just kind of pointing out different examples of how we're still early. These are 5 indicators. And one is YouTube metrics, which are still insanely low compared to last cycle. So if you look at the peak of last cycle and where YouTube metrics were compared to where they are now, this is where a lot of retail goes to get their information, is on places like here and, bigger channels usually. But YouTube is an indicator for retail, as is Google searches. And again, you can see that the Google search trend isn't anywhere near where it was when we were peak retail interest. His third indicator is that you're not seeing those crypto apps in the charting in the app store yet. And I remember when things were popping off and crypto.com and Larry David was making Super Bowl commercials and all these things, some of the top 10 wallets were crypto wallets. And they were consistently in the top 100. But we're not seeing that yet. They're nowhere to be seen. And then you look at alts. Right? This is total 3. And still far below. And so there's so much roadway ahead of us, and it's early, and that's cliche to say, but it's true. It's going to be a fun ride, and let's see where it goes. Let's see who else we got in the house here. Ron Cryptotherapy says download Wallet Guard. Absolutely recommend it. Check out his stream with Wallet Guard people. Anything you can do to protect yourself in this game, you should do it. I think Wallet Guard reads and picks up on malicious, links, things like that, and protects your wallet. I've got my cold storage. I've got like 10 different MetaMask accounts, all siphoned off from each other. I've got a Trust wallet account. I've got 3 Phantom wallets. I've got a Algo wallet. You can never be too safe. And the thing is, as your bags increase in value, it's going to become even scarier to think about, right? Think about where your portfolio is now, and then 10x it, 20x it. You don't want to take any chances with that sort of thing. And so, this Bit4X thing is a wake-up call and a reminder early on in this cycle, because we will see the same things that have happened in the past, unfortunately, happen again. And, I saw today that Devve dipped because of someone posted a link that people thought, I guess, was a Devve team link or something. If you look at the 24-hour chart, see this dip. People thought that there was a hack or something like this because there was a scammer. And people lost their tokens and people got scared. I don't ever click a Discord link. Don't ever click a Twitter link saying that there is a migration. I see that with Relio network token all the time. I get tagged in these messages saying, click the link for the token migration. All right, it's fake news, and they're looking to connect your wallet and drain you. So don't click links. Season 3 OG in the house. What's good? VLRM in the house. Thanks for your efforts in the group. Thank you for joining the group and becoming a member there. Justin, what's good? Says, thank you, Ron. Cool Mo, channel member. Appreciate you. What's good? Jordan says, I said it last week on AT. I think Bitcoin will hit all-time high before halving. We're going to find out. There's only a handful of alts on Robinhood, Webull, etc. after they yanked them all off. Wait till they relist them. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the regulatory thing, because that's not going away, right? And, it's not like we're going to get some regulatory clarity anytime soon, unless, maybe Coinbase wins their case early, that doesn't go to court. We'll see. And Ron says 1% of BlackRock allocation is Bitcoin. To Bitcoin would be 100 billion into Bitcoin. It's absolutely insane to think of how things would move once this real money gets in. And so, when I think about why is Bitcoin where it's at now, on a very basic level, it's supply and demand. This is an increasingly scarcer asset with increasing demand. So it's a very basic economic concept at play, which is part of the whole thesis here, right? Supply and demand. Combine that with more and more people being familiar with, the cycles, the way things move, the whole ETF thing going on. And so you have this perfect storm for Bitcoin. Combine that with now, possible rate cuts on the horizon, and, maybe some more money printing. It's going to be fun. All right. Now, I hear a lot of people talking about and asking questions about when to take profits and things like this, when to sell. And it's tricky, right? On the one hand, you don't want to be too greedy. On the other hand, you don't want to sell some of these alts too soon, because the real gains are in front of us. And I've showed this before. I've gone through different charts before, but when you look at any chart, pretty much they all look the same. All the alts. You get these little run-ups followed by those parabolic runs. And we're not there yet. And you'll know when we get there, because you're going to see crazy gains on a daily basis, and it's going to feel like we're never coming down. All right. But typically, alts hit all-time highs after Bitcoin hits an all-time high. All right. And you don't know that until hindsight. You don't know what the Bitcoin all-time high was until, after the cycle is over. But typically, Bitcoin has its run up, alts follow, and then alts go crazy. And if you look, I made a little, you know how I love charts. Pulled some data from the last 2 cycles, and I mislabeled one of them. And you can take a look at what you notice. We'll look at the first one. These are all-time highs for a bunch of different coins in the 2017 cycle. All right, and what do you notice? Bitcoin all-time high on 12/16/17, which is 17 months after its halving. Hit about 19,500. All the all-time highs from all of these alts, and I just picked random ones, mostly in the top 100, I think, all came after this date. XRP on the 3rd of January. Ethereum, 115. Litecoin, the day after Bitcoin. ADA, all of them. Now, of course, you don't know that it's the top of Bitcoin at the time when you're there. But a good strategy is once Bitcoin has run up past its all-time high and has gone up quite a bit, like let's say Bitcoin's at 80, 90,000, it's time to take some money off the table, perhaps, right? You have to think about selling the higher Bitcoin goes. And if you look at last cycle was a little different. And I'll explain why. So Bitcoin, 19 months after the halving, all-time high of almost $69,000 on November 10th, 21. Sol that week, also all-time high. ETH that week. ADA a month, 2 months before, right after their smart contracts came out, ADA peaked at just over $3. Polkadot, same week as Bitcoin. But then you see some in May of 21, April of 21. And that's because Bitcoin double topped, right? So last cycle, Bitcoin had a double topped. It peaked, in about, I think, April, May of 21. Sold off, right? Things sold off and then roared back. But not everything went back to its all-time high. So again, we use these things as just information to inform us and think about possibilities and also frame our planning, right? So when people ask me, when is it time to sell? It's when Bitcoin's really ripping beyond that all-time high. Now, typically, Bitcoin has peaked 18 months after halving. All right, but this time around could be different if Bitcoin gets there well sooner. So it's going to be tricky. It's going to be interesting. The key thing is don't get too greedy along the way. Secure your profits once you're in a good profit and once this market is really heating up. But let's talk about some alts. And I wanted to talk about Aitech, which again has been on a tear along with the rest of this AI sector. And this was put out in the group, in Ron's Telegram group, at right about here, about 2 cents. So shout out to people who bought there. That was a 7x ago. I didn't catch it that low, but I did catch it this 3 or 4 cent area. So I'm up a good 300% on it. But I bought Aitech because it makes sense to me, right? There are a lot of different AI projects out there, bots, things that throw, protocols that throw AI on them. When I looked at Aitech, it made sense to me because It does a number of things. All right. So these guys have a database where they supply companies and countries with their computing power, right? Which is an ever increasing need. It's artificial intelligence as a software service, right? It's like a SaaS, but with AI. It's a blockchain as a service. They are exporting their computer power, and they're also a launch pad. So they've got a lot of things going on, and launch pads on their own do pretty well. And a launch pad does just that. It launches other tokens, right? IDOs and things like that. Just recently, a hot one came out of it, Octavia, VIA, which is rocketed up. But they've got all of these IDOs coming out of it already. To chat complete, that's a decentralized social protocol. This gaming token came out of their script. And their token is the native token for all of these things, right? So there are multiple utilities. Now, we talk about dilution a lot here because people think about market caps and they just say, well, if this does a 10x, it'll have a certain market cap. But you have to take into consideration dilution, right? So it's at a $64 million market cap. But if you look at its token supply, this is where we're at. About a 30% unlocked. This is where we're going. All right, if you project out to 2025, 80%. So you're getting another, you're getting 50% of the tokens unlocked. Now for me, during a bull run with such a hot sector as, AI, I think it'll, eat through any sell pressure, but it will affect the market cap and how people price it and think about it, right? It starts to become more expensive when they look at it and see it, as a $4 billion crypto as opposed to a $2 billion. Something to take into consideration. However, the good thing with AI tech is that it's deflationary. And I think 10% of the tokens get burnt on each transaction. And their goal is, I believe they go up to 10 a 10 billion total supply, I want to say. And the goal is to burn 90% of it. They're going to stop burning when it gets down to 1 billion. So there will be dilution. There are already active burns. There is a tracker for the burns that I couldn't find just yet, but I'm going to look for it to try to get some better information or a little more concrete data. But I take those things into consideration and I think about where AI tech can go, and I added them to my spreadsheet. All right, so if you're not familiar, if you weren't here last stream, this is a spreadsheet I made outlining different coins that many of us like and where they could be at next year, considering dilution. Right, these are different possibilities. And again, I don't marry any narrative. Any of these could go to zero, right? Terra Luna was a multi-billion market cap coin, and it famously went to zero. So it's crypto. We have to act accordingly. Anything can go to zero. That being said, many of these can from here still do 10x's, 20x's, 50x's, etc. So in my mind, I try to map things out because when I think about where do I want to take profits on some of these positions, I have to think about what are the possibilities, what are my expectations of these coins, right? If Tectum goes to $100, and that's a great gain for me, that's a 10x from where I bought it. If Tectum goes to $100, do I want to sell it? If we're early in the cycle and they're still picking up steam, and my expectation is, they're going to go to at least $2 billion and they're on track for that, then I don't want to sell it. If my expectation is there's a chance that goes to $600 or even $1,500, because I do think it can get to a $10 billion market cap, then I'm not selling at $100. Maybe I'll start selling here, right? And that's where planning comes in. That's where forethought and foresight comes in, because a lot of us, it's easy. Again, I say foresight trumps hindsight. With hindsight, anyone can say, I shouldn't have sold at that price. You need to have some foresight. And then my goal is to DCA out the same way I DCA in. I'm not looking to catch the top. One person buys the top, one person buys the bottom. I'm looking to extract as much money as I can from this market. And so you have to think about where these things could go. So Aitech is something I could see commanding, billions of dollars in market cap. And AI has not had a proper run yet. And so it's really difficult. There are no precedents, right? So when I look at Myria, which I just added to this, when I look at Myria, I can comfortably throw a $4 billion market cap on it as kind of like a magnet, because that's what Gala went to. And Myria is very similar to Gala. So I can think of that as a good barometer. It gives it context. This AI sector is brand new, so it's going to create context for future coins. Now, you are seeing some of these things grow into bigger market caps, right? You're looking at, I think, FET AI, Solidarity, Render. They're getting close to $1 billion, crossing $1 billion. Many of them are going to cross $1 billion market cap. And I think Aitech is one that absolutely could, considering that it's a software as a service, that they're exporting their much needed computer power. So even if fundamentally, right, that, doesn't drive the price, the narrative alone is enough. And then take into consideration that it's a launch pad and it's already launched some successful projects. When you take a look at VIA, which I covered on here before, this just launched public price 10 cents. Just launched. It's at $1.21. It's already at over $100 million market cap. This is a very hot token. Okay. So you see Aitech launching these sorts of projects along with the other things that they're doing. And I do think that Aitech could get, I have too many spreadsheets. I do see it possibly getting into the $1 billion market cap area, right? Now, taking into consideration dilution, the market cap is going to get bloated. I can see it doing a 20x in my mind. Could be wrong, could go to zero again, right? You got to play the numbers out, and crypto is a wide range. Crypto is like, $0 to moon is like what crypto coins often do. But that's why we spread out, right? That's why you don't marry one coin, you don't marry a bag, because it's such a high risk environment where anything can quite literally go to zero. All right. So have to keep that in mind. So I can see it getting up there. I can see it from this price doing a 50x and getting to $6 billion market cap. I can see that. Can it 100x and get to 12 billion? I put red on that. As of now, I would say I think that's a stretch. But that's how I see Aitech. I think that there's great potential there. We'll see if it plays out. But again, it's a game of probabilities, and don't marry a narrative. Don't marry an outcome. If you were here last cycle, you likely got burnt, or any cycle. If you survived your first cycle, you likely got burnt off of that mistake. People married to a $5 ADA last cycle because it just had to happen, got burnt. People married to a $100,000 Bitcoin got burnt. If you were married to a 5-cent OMI price, you got burnt. And so, super important, don't marry one outcome, be open to different outcomes. And it's a game of probabilities. And along the way, once we get up there and we start fulfilling, it starts fulfilling, the potential, start to de-risk, scale out, put money in your pocket. That's my plan, right? So we will see. Eli in the house, what's good? Appreciate you. My Collectibles in the house, what's good, friend? Yes, lots of opportunities. Lots of opportunities. Wallet Guard have mobile yet? I'm not sure. Ron can answer that if he's still here. Muhammad Siddiqui in the house, what's good? Damn, I just joined, forgot to turn on notifications. All good. Let me just charge my battery. Give me a second. I don't want my battery, my Mac to die on me midstream. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. All right. So lots of opportunities, as My Collectibles says. All right. So Miri is another one that I just added here just for reference. $200 million market cap right now. So it's getting up there. The higher it gets, I think the less upside, obviously, right? But still has room to grow. I think Myria could still do a 20x from here. And we'll see. But very solid. I added that to the list. Mcade has been on a tear. For those of you following Mcade, and there are some lessons to be learned here I wanted to go over. I'm all about learning, right? As I go, what can I learn in order to be better? And I want to talk about Mcade. Look at this. Look at this on the monthly. It's up, almost 100%. Mcade, for a long time, if you were, in on Mcade, and shout out to Ron for finding this one. He found it early. If you were in on this one, you saw it lagging. A lot of the gaming stuff early on was, running, and Mcade wasn't. And, that's been broken down before as to why that was. But, Mcade was boring. And not only wasn't it running, but, it was dipping a bit. And it acted like a stable coin, right? For a good 3 months, which in crypto feels like 3 years. It was just lagging and lingering in this, 1 cent range, 1 1/10, 1 2/10, 1 cent flat, until all of a sudden this happened. And during this stage, when it was lagging and when it was boring, a lot of people were asking, is Mcade still good? Is Mcade still a good buy? Is it ever going to move? I know it's crypto and we get, and things move. We're used to things moving. And when everything is moving and your thing is not moving, it's frustrating. But sometimes you have to be patient and, again, have the foresight to think, what could this do? And now you've seen Mcade with a big move up, right? And now Mcade is catching up in market cap to games for a living, playable games. And why is that? A couple reasons. One, marketing is starting for the token and the gaming platform this week. Two, they're starting tournaments. right? Like Nakamoto has, Naka Games. They're starting tournaments. And 3, they just added, which to me, this is why I became way more bullish on Mcade recently, is because they just added Jamie King. I think that's his name, right? Jamie King. Former co-founder of Rockstar Games, a producer on a few GTA games. And why is that significant? It's because it gives it a level of credibility to, everyday people. I don't know who Russ Mcade is. He's got time in the field. He's done things, right? That's the founder's nickname, Russ Mcade, right? I don't know him, though. Why do people love games for a living? A lot of people, including myself. Part of my thesis on games for a living was because the vice president, or the one of the co-founders, was the vice president of King, the company that made Candy Crush. The other co-founder was one of the founders of EA Sports. And so that team immediately has credibility and draws eyes to it. And now Mcade is adding someone with just as much credibility to their team as an advisor, right? The guy who helped co-found Rockstar Games, worked on the GTA games. So now, not only is it fundamentally stronger, but more importantly for crypto, the narrative is stronger. People can wrap their minds around that. And so I became even more bullish on Mcade. I haven't bought any recently because I filled my bags when it was low. Now, I go back to when I said, always learn from your mistakes, or just learn as you go. Not even if you made a mistake. If you question Mcade or any other coin that sat stagnant, and then it starts moving, and now you have validation and confirmation, learn from that, because now people are wondering, what about games for a living? Look at games for a living. Look at that 3-month chart. Brutal. But look at the yearly chart. It's a bit better. Much better. And people are saying, when's games for a living going to do something? It's only been 2.5 months, right? Gaming had a big run up. Games for a living made a lot of people a lot of money. There are token unlocks every month. It's going to have its day again, right? As long as the market stays healthy, that sector's going to catch fire again. I do believe it's going to have its day again. I do believe playable games is going to have its day again. And again, playable games went up 50x from the bottom to the local top. Made a lot of people a lot of money. They're going to take profit. It's going to form new levels. It's going to create a chart structure. Eventually, the market's going to heat up. The big boys are going to start moving first. Maybe Naka, the bigger ones, Gala, IMX, those infrastructure plays in gaming. And then the small guys start running again. And so it's a reminder. Mcade to me is a reminder to have some patience and just wait. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing, right? I don't move in and out of positions. Oftentimes the best thing to do is nothing. And if you believe in something, if you believe that something is in a good sector, is fundamentally strong, has a good leadership team, and the price is cheap, maybe it's a good buy, right? So I do think playable games for a living right now, good buys. And I do think that Mcade still has room to grow, because you look at playable games, $40 million market cap. You look at games for a living, $50 million market cap. And look at Mcade, $35 million market cap. It's still cheaper than those gaming projects. Now, take into consideration that games for a living is going to be heavily diluted, as is playable games, while Mcade is fully diluted and is deflationary because they'll be burning tokens. And when you talk about relative, price relatively in context to one another, I think Mcade might still be the better buy. But I wouldn't buy it at this. I try not to buy things at local tops, right? I would wait for it to settle a little bit, etc. Let's see who else. Mohamed Siddiqui says Mcade to $1. Let's look back at my chart, and I'll show you. So do I think Mcade can hit $1? I think it can. So this is yellow would be my conservative, like where I think it could potentially go. Keeping in mind everything can go to 0. My yellow section is conservative. Green is like a bull case scenario if things go right. And I do think that, that wouldn't be 100x from here, but it would probably be now that it's gone up. But I do think $2 billion. Even this is in blue because this is not impossible. $4 billion market cap. $2.60 Mcade. It's possible. It's crypto, right? We're going to see those market caps in this sector. Is it likely? I'm still saying, I'm still being conservative. And as things take shape, I'll get a firmer grip on where I think it's going to end up. Jimbo Lilingo in the house. What's good? I'm going to tell you my thoughts on Devve in a second, but right now I got to get this Mac charged. Give me a second. I'm having some issues here. Sorry. For some reason, my battery's not charging. I don't want to rug. It's still not charging. I don't know what's happening. I might rug on you guys. Let's see how much battery life I have. 17%. Should be good for another 20, 30 minutes, hopefully. Let's see. I want to talk about OMI also. But Devve, I like Devve a lot. I've covered it a bunch. Devve is a layer 1 blockchain. Love that sector. It is ESG friendly. Also like that narrative, right? They're clean energy, etc. I don't really, that's not something I prioritize, clean energy, but I do think that companies, corporations, and countries prioritize ESG. And so I think that's very bullish for Devve. They have mainnet. If you're looking for a catalyst for Devve soon, where is it? Here it is. They're rolling out their public testnet in March. All right. It's perspective. They say it's 8 million TPS, transactions per second, which would be the fastest if it actually does that, right? Tectum set the record at 1.2 million TPS. So a lot to like about Devve. Maybe a catalyst coming in March. Keep that in your mind. And I like the price. The thing to keep in mind with Devve is that it's going to be heavily diluted. And I don't know. This is, I'm trying to find, I don't have it open, the dilution, but like the scale of it, it's going to be heavily diluted. All right. So keep that in mind. Again, I think in a bull market, it's going to eat through the price action anyway. But the market cap will bloat. So if you're looking at it today and you're saying Devve is worth $25 million, 100x will bring you to $2.5 billion. That's not the case, right? 100x on Devve brings you to, when it's diluted, a $10 billion market cap. It's going to be heavily diluted, which is still very doable for a blockchain. Okay. You can see 20, again, Polkadot, $40 billion market cap. These things can prospectively get big. It is a crowded field. It's an increasingly crowded field. You're seeing more and more blockchains, more and more layer ones competing for attention, competing for a piece of the pie. The pie is going to get bigger, right? So the pieces of the pie will get bigger, but that's something to keep in mind also, right? Maybe it could get lost in the shuffle. That's why I like the ESG narrative, is because that helps it stand out a bit. So my thoughts on Devve is that it's a really good buy right now. Long term. Short term, anything could always go down. But $1.27, it just debuted, and it immediately did a 4X off its release, but it's down a good amount from its local high of $1.92. Would it surprise me to see Devve go on a run and get back up to test that local high? No, it wouldn't. And that would be a 50% gain, a rough math. And so I've been buying Devve. I've been adding to my bag. I added to my bag today. I like it. It also kind of gives me a hedge against Tectum, right? And they act as a hedge against each other, right? These big layer ones, these infrastructure plays. So if I have good sized positions in both of them and one of them fulfills the prophecy, I'm good. So I do like Devve a lot. Ron says Danny's like a crypto preacher. I get going. This is regarding mobile, the wallet guard. Not yet for mobile. Pixel Trader in the house. Good stuff. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Raven says, remember, Devve's using sharding. Yeah, to get these speeds. Absolutely is. And you're going to see, I think, you saw Ron's Ran from Crypto Banter talking about Devve. I'm sure he got in on the pre-sale and he's got a huge bag. I think you'll start to see, as this market takes shape, you're going to start to see some of the bigger influencers talking about this stuff. And that's when they really get going, right? And so we're early. We're super early. And it's a great time to accumulate positions in solid projects in hot sectors, right? We still have time. However, time's gonna, the hourglass the sand is falling, right? We're getting closer and closer to the halving and closer to a Bitcoin all-time high. So, I'm not sitting on my hands personally. I have not been sitting on my hands. I've been kind of aggressively adding for months now. I texted Ron in November or October, and I was like, man, I'm about to cash out all my stocks. I want to cash out and go in on a bunch of these small caps, right? Talking about timing. And I pulled the trigger back then. And I've been all in on small caps, these micro caps, because these are going to get these are going to get your biggest gains. And we talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum are great, and they're a great balance to a portfolio. I scaled out of Bitcoin and I accumulated it heavy from 15.8 to 20,000, 25,000. I accumulated almost a whole Bitcoin. And I scaled out of it in the 40s, high 30s, 40s, and I put it into alts because my thesis is if Bitcoin, Ethereum, and those other ones, ADA, Solana, those bigger caps, hit certain market caps, the good alts are going to do many more X's. So if those things happen, like if I'm holding Bitcoin and it hits $100,000, $150,000, I'm better off holding alts because they're going to do many more multiples. So I scaled out of the big boys, still holding half of my soul bag, and I'll be scaling out of Solana as it continues to go up, and I'll be using that as liquidity to buy smaller caps and ride them up. That's my plan. Mo Collections in the house. Yeah, Ron's talking about Devve. A lot of dilution there, right? So again, think about it. Take into consideration dilution. And a lot of channels don't talk about this. When you watch a lot of channels and they talk about something's in 100x and they put the price on it, and they're not realizing that what they're saying is it's going to be like a $40 billion market cap, and it's a gaming token. You know, I saw someone put out a crazy price tag, and he had a lot of subs on his channel on games for a living, not taking into consideration dilution. So important to consider. Let me see what my battery life's at. I'm at 16% on my Mac battery, so looks like I can power through this thing. Wanted to talk about, let me see what other things. OMI, I wanted to talk about OMI a bit. And that whole situation, because I have some thoughts on it. First off, I feel bad for anyone who has their money on Bit4X. Sorry it happened. I hope that you're not hit too hard because it sucks. I'm not going to sit here, and call this a buy the dip opportunity and be happy that something dropped when you've got 22 billion OMI on there, which is roughly at a tenth of a penny. I want to say, is that, someone do the math for me, is that $22 million? $22 million of community money, right? Possibly gone. And that sucks. So the price dipped quite a bit. It made a decent recovery here at back to the 009. Long term, OMI's going to be fine in terms of where it goes this cycle. I don't think it'll be affected, but it's a reminder that they need more exchanges. And I talked about in some of my streams over the last year about the risk of having too much, of not being spread out enough, right? 7% of circulating supply was on a Bit4X, which is not a good exchange. And so when you don't have a lot of exchanges, when you don't have reputable exchanges, you're putting the coin more at risk. Now, it's not their fault that people lost their money or anything like that, because we all know the dangers of leaving money on exchanges and not self-custodying. So people have to take ownership. But the token itself is insulated more. Now imagine a situation where, and I don't think it'll happen, but imagine 22 billion ended up in the hands of someone and they were dumped on the market. You want to be, as if you're heading a token, you're in charge of a token, you want to make sure it's spread out as much as possible, decentralized, not all in one central location, especially when that central location is not a very good exchange. Now, it's crypto, so plenty of reputable exchanges like FTX was a reputable exchange and it went down. So even those exchanges go down, right? So, but that there's exponentially more risk with exchanges like Bit4X. And so now it's one exchange down, which kind of takes the sale out of presumably they're getting on BitGet, another exchange, right? There's supposed to be an exchange listing. So this kind of takes the sales out of that a little bit, which is disappointing. And it feels like it's never easy for OMI holders, right? There are always these road bumps. But ultimately, I do think it's just a road bump, and OMI will be fine. Now, I've talked about OMI a bunch over the last year or so, $245 million market cap. And so if I'm putting new money, I'm still holding OMI. If I'm putting new money in, I think that there are so many other good projects that are just cheaper, right? And that have more growth ahead of them, especially on their first cycle. I think it's possible OMI hits a new all-time high. But again, it's a game of possibilities and probabilities. And historically speaking, it's not so easy to hit a new all-time high. right? And if you look at, again, if you look at legacy coins, majority of them don't make new all-time highs, right? The ones in red are from last cycle that had been around one previous cycle, and they didn't make a new all-time high. And these are top 100 coins, XRP, Stellar Lumens, etc., Tron. These are solid projects, fell short of their all-time high. So it's possible. ADA did it, Litecoin did it. But when I talk about, one of the things that I talk about, or Ron says preaches about, is don't marry an outcome or a narrative. I think it's very possible OMI hits a new all-time high. However, I think that there are multiple outcomes that are possible. And maybe a likelier one is that it doesn't, right? If I was conservative, I would say $3 billion market cap on OMI at a penny would be a good outcome. That's a little more than a 10x right now. Right? I think it gets increasingly harder as the market caps go up, but it's crypto and market caps get up this high. Would I be shocked if OMI got to a $15 billion market cap? I would not be shocked, right? I just wouldn't put it as my base case scenario, but it could absolutely get to a $15 billion market cap if it picks up steam, goes crazy. They hit all their catalysts. They get, hits narrative. People start talking about it. It's possible. I'm just not marrying that idea, right? But I do want them to get on more exchanges. I think it's important. I want them to get on reputable exchanges, increase accessibility to the token. And unfortunately, Bit4X was the go-to exchange for the majority of OMI holders. So again, hope that works out for people and they are able to recover their tokens. And I do think that that's a possibility. I mean, we'll see what happens, but those haven't been moved out of the wallet over there on Bit4X, so they're not gone. And we'll see how it works out. Let's see what else we got to talk about here. Another token I wanted to talk about that's starting to pick up a little steam is hello. So let's take a look at the hello chart. Love this as a story, a narrative. I was quite bullish on it. Had a huge dump right here, as you can see. It was almost 20 cents, I want to say. Here it is. 19 cents, almost 20 cents. Dumped hard after the first show debuted. Ron cut it. A bunch of other people I saw cut it because of that. I didn't cut it. I'm still holding. I still think that the narrative of it is the same. And there's a little news on the team, so I just wanted to cover that for those of you who are in on hello. And that is this. So this is Paul Caslin. He's the founder, and he's been in the entertainment industry. He's the founder of Hello Labs. He's stepping in as the CEO of Hello Labs. The former CEO is still with them. He's not leaving. He's going to be focusing strictly on their Killer Whales series, on season 2 of Killer Whales. This guy, Paul Caslin, is stepping away from the entertainment industry to focus strictly on Hello Labs. Their show's hitting Apple TV in March. We'll see how it does. I think long-term, it'll be fine. Short-term, it took a beating. Maybe in the short term, you could have made money elsewhere, as Ron said, and Ron made good money elsewhere. And this is where, for me, I think it's important to know yourself and know your strengths. So I'm not a trader. And one of my things is I have to stay within myself. right? And that is, what is my game plan? What's my expectation? And my game plan is to accumulate projects that I like for a long period of time. When I say long, I mean relative to the crypto cycle, right? For this cycle. And I try not to move in and out of positions, because once I start doing that, then I potentially make more mistakes. Now, will I stay in something that, will I one day make a mistake by staying in something that I shouldn't? Possibly. But for me, there's so much psychology involved in this that when things go sideways or dip or, stay down for too long, it's easy to second guess it and move out of it and move into something else and get bored of something and chase something else, right? And so, like, Mcade comes to mind. For me, I have to have my own set of principles and stay within myself and my skill set. And as someone who doesn't trade, I am a buyer and a hodler and an accumulator. I stick to my plan. And my thesis hasn't changed on Hello. I think long-term it's going to be fine. And I think that they have the potential to do interesting things within the entertainment industry. All right, as the cycle moves on, right? They can, they're going to branch out beyond the shows that they have. This is looking to become like an entertainment play. And there are so many things, from live events to other things that they can put together. And so just wanted to share that bit of news on Hello. Mo Collection says this is AI's year. Yes. OPSEC, PAL AI, LAI, UFI. So many good tokens in AI, or in so many good tokens in different sectors. It's not only going to be AI. It's going to be AI. It's going to be gaming. You're going to see DeFi come back. But AI is looking like right now it's super strong. Gaming is going to come back and be super strong. I think those are the two, AI and gaming. And AI was kind of asleep. Ori is good. If you look at AI, they pretty much all look like, a lot of them look the same from mid-December through February. So a good 2 months of consolidation, of just going sideways, being boring. And now this run up, right? Now everyone's chasing AI coins. And right now, what you're seeing out of the gaming sector is just more boring sideways action, consolidation for most of them. And I would expect these to get hot again. And so it's good to be positioned in different sectors. My portfolio is made up of a couple AI plays, few gaming plays, layer ones, Bitcoin scaling solutions, right? As Bitcoin is a major narrative with the ETF front and center. So when you're diversified amongst different sectors, you're catching different runs in the market. And it also helps take away that FOMO, right? It sucks to be sidelined on AI if you have no AI plays right now. And I don't have a bunch of them, right? I have like 2, but I have big positions in 2 of them. So I missed, I've talked about AGI. I missed AGI. I'm really pissed at myself. Delicium, because it was on my watch list and I wanted to buy it. Maybe I'll get a chance. That's a nice dip. But it's at $138 million market cap now. When I was eyeing this, it was much cheaper. But I can't complain, because I caught Palm for a bit, and I've got Paladin AI, which is still super small market cap, 7 million. Again, called out by Ron in the group right after it was released. And I think I got a 7x on this. And so I missed AGI, and I'm kicking myself for it, but then I have to remind myself that I caught Pal AI, I caught Aitech super early. And another thing to remember, and I'm very big on adages, is you can't catch them all. Right? You can't have FOMO. You can't catch them all. There's simply too many. 23,000 crypto coins. Many of them are going to do big numbers. You're not going to have 99.9% of them. It's impossible, right? 20,000 coins. It's impossible to have them all. As long as you're positioned in a good amount of them. And when you're catching different sectors, you're exposed, right, to different sectors. You don't quite have that FOMO. So that's where we're at. So I've covered everything that I wanted to cover here tonight. My battery on my Mac is about to die. I'm at 10%. I got to figure out why it's not charging. I want to thank you all for coming through, spending about an hour or so with me tonight. I'm going to try to stream again later in the week. As always, like and subscribe to the channel. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.